What about physical health? What attracts you to be physically healthy?
Will I start?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. I'll kick things off. I don't mind. Not a lot, if I'm honest.
Please be.
I've never been particularly interested in physical health. However, I've never been particularly interested in sports, as I was saying before. So therefore, for me, it was always like, there was nothing really to sort of drive me to get involved in that sort of thing, despite a lot of my friends playing football, rugby, that sort of thing. Until I was like 18, 19, and I discovered snowboarding. And I was like, finally, a sport that I actually enjoy. However, every time I did it, it nearly killed me. Like, I mean, come the end of the week, I was like dying. And then it got to a point where obviously I was getting older and a bit more rotund. And I would go on ski holidays and duly embarrass myself in front of my friends because of my inability to get down a slope without wheezing my way to the bottom. And I decided, now with my kids, I'll try and get more healthy. Interestingly though, I'm not trying to specifically lose weight or change my body shape. I just want to be more healthy and be able to get down the slope without wheezing my way to the bottom and wanting to die.
So is that how you're defining healthy?
Yeah. Like, I'm not particularly interested in changing what I eat. I don't want to suddenly become like ripped with a six-pack. I couldn't care less. I'm assuming that my wife likes me the way I am because I'm pretty much the same. I'm maybe a little bit fatter. Pretty much the same as when we got married. So I'm making an assumption she doesn't want someone with a six-pack and massive muscles because I never had that in the first place. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I don't know about you guys.
I think one of the things that you touched on was with kids, you want to stay healthy for your kids. And I think this time in my life, certainly that's something that was highlighted for me. It was like very important for me. Again, going back to when we were growing up, our parents, they never got into physical activity. It was just work. You know, they were the man of the house, went to work, he came home. They didn't do all that nonsense sport, nonsense waste of time. So you see, especially in our culture, the people have problems. It tends to be a large percentage of folk that have heart problems because they don't take any physical hobbies, activities. They just work and come home, and that can be stressful. And also with the kind of food intake that we have, with the oils and the ghees and whatever else and the curries, and that's not healthy for you if you're not actually physically doing anything. So it's very common, and I've heard that, and I'm aware of it, that a lot of the older generation have health problems that could be avoided, but just because of the culture, their ideas of, you know, how their lifestyle, they kind of fall into the part of their lifestyle, that just wasn't a thing, physical thing. So come to the age that I'm at now, I'm more aware of that. But before that, I think physically, yeah, I enjoyed sport. Any activity, it was sporty, I would partake in it. As an active boy, I just loved running around and bouncing about, to be honest. I didn't really have a particular sport that I was more keen on than another, until my teens, and then I got into football and I realised I was quite good at football. But the interesting thing is I never actually watched football on TV. Like, I wasn't into supporting a team, and my friends would talk about, you know, what happened in the Premier League, what happened in the Scottish League and stuff. I was out of those conversations. I was like, all right. And sometimes I'd pretend that, yeah, that's right, I watched it. No, I didn't. but it was just to feel like you're part of this. But I enjoyed football. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I realised that I was quite good at it, and it's something you're good at, you enjoy. So I've continued it up till now. Obviously less so now, and I'm feeling. I was playing not long ago, and I can feel it in my legs. It takes me a whole week to recover. I'll play like on a Tuesday, and then the following week is when I've recovered, and I'm playing again. And it literally takes a whole week for me, my body to recover. But I'm very persistent, and I'm very persistent simply because it's not a case of, oh, it's sore, I shouldn't do this, and I'm going to cut back, or I'll do it twice a week. I push myself simply because I want a certain standard of physical health, ability that I can kind of maintain, and I think that's important for me to stay healthy for my family as well as just for my own well-being.
Because I notice it when we'll be out and about. Me and my wife will be out and about. So we got 3 kids, but one of them's 3 years old and the other one's 8 months old.
Yeah.
And like, when you've got a baby and a toddler,
Yeah.
like it actually is like really helpful to be able to like hold one of them and still be able to control the other one. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he's like, oh, and you're, oh God,
Yeah.
And the amount of times where my wife, she's a lot smaller than me, and she's like, I can't do that. Like, I'll stick the little one on the baby carrier,
Yeah.
so it'll be like strapped to my tummy,
Yeah.
bags, and Whereas like before going to the gym and actually trying to get a bit more physically healthy, like I think I would have struggled with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
From a practical point of view, like I say, it's not about going to the gym and taking photos in the mirror. It's about like, see, when I'm trudging upstairs with a baby and like shopping bags and a pram, like I need to be able to do it, and I think that's like actually useful as a thing to be able to do. Maybe that's just me that only wanted to do practical things. Do you know what I mean? Like there needs to be a purpose. Like
It's interesting you're saying about looking in the mirror, ripped and all that. I remember when I was growing up, Bruce Lee was one of the guys I was inspired by, and he was ripped, and I thought, I want to be him, and getting like dumbbells, I don't know from where, borrowing them and trying it, and I'm only like 12 or 13, I'm going back into the mirror and seeing what's happened, why is this not happening, so yeah, I mean, there was, I think, that phase, but it never really got like vain, if you know what I mean. Like I wanted women to be like, whoa, look at him, look at his body, his body's a temple. Nothing like that kind of nonsense. It was more inspired by certain...
just trying to
replicate an idol, a role model per se, that kind of way. But it never got beyond that, thankfully. Aye.
I think a funny thing happens when guys talk about physical health. We always end up talking about sport very, very quickly. And I've always wondered about why that is. But then, Luke, you said it right in the start of this conversation, you're not really interested in physical health as such. And in my experience of working with different men around this, I think it's true for many, many men. They just don't think about the mechanics of health rather than physical activity or sport, because that's practically how we tend to make it happen. And the research, backs that up nowadays, that physical activity, very, very good for your health, good for your mental health. But it is an easier topic to talk about, I think. And myself included. I mean, the only time I've ever really done exercise for the sake of doing exercise was in my 20s. I used to run quite a lot and go to the gym. And I've always thought, with me, it's been who are the crowd of people that I'm hanging out with. So in my 20s, the people I worked with all went to the gym and went running. And it was easy to join in with that. There was always somebody to do it with. And then when I moved up to Scotland, the crowd of people that I fell in with did no exercise. And they weren't all Glaswegians, so it's not a comment on Glasgow. And I did the same, and I was quite pleased about that, to be honest, because exercising for the sake of it is quite dull, I find. But like you're saying, the physical activity that's involved in being a dad, of humping bags about and carrying children and folding up prams, for me that's a useful way of exercising, and you don't actually think about the exercise then, you're doing the activity and it keeps you active. But I would certainly agree that I've had that feeling too about my kids. I can't really afford to be moving into the age that I am and becoming not able to do things that they want to do. With a boy of 8, he's like a powerhouse, and to keep up with him running is difficult already. So yeah, for me it's the same motivation, that you don't want to limit what they can do or provide a bad example. I think I want them to be interested in keeping active and enjoying things you can do outside, especially now everybody's on screens all the time, and they've got massive thumbs and sore necks. It would be great to have them out doing, walking and cycling, and we live near the sea, so there's always the beach to explore. But yeah, I think health and fitness as its own contained topic is not that interesting unless you're into the mechanics of it from a medical sense. It would seem, anyway, open to be improved wrong.
What are some of the messages that each of you have received when you were growing up that led to your opinion or definition about health and physical activity, if any?
So when I was growing up, I was, and still am in some respects, quite a weak kid. And sports was the kind of thing that was done in the cold, in winter, where you were just made to wear some flimsy tops and shorts and all that kind of thing. It was absolute bloody hell. And that gave me a complete aversion to physical exercise, really up until about the age of 40. It wasn't helped by the fact that as the weak, skinny kid, you would be the person who was tripped up, pushed into the dirt and all that kind of thing. So I just had this complete, not doing it. It's just not for me. And that's kind of stayed on. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've started to change that. But I still wouldn't play a game of football or anything like that. My exercise comes in the form, or it did, of hot yoga, which is terribly unmanly. But my God, it both shifted the pounds, made me supple, and made me healthier in my own right.
Is that where they have like a room that's like a sauna pretty much?
Yes.
It's like really hot. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. It is. They usually do it as a mixed class, and I have to say, it is one of the most unerotic mixed classes you could ever go to, because you're just thinking you're going to die. You're spending the whole time going, no, make it stop. And it's 90 minutes of this, what you would consider to be a really easy kind of exercise, but no, after about 15 minutes you think, no. But it's actually, for me that was really good, and it's so I think it was a case of finding what actually worked for me as well, and it wasn't in terms of competitive sport. I've never been particularly competitive. So thinking back through to some of the messages, I think exercise was competitive, and I'm not competitive.
I had a similar experience in school. Like, I was always the kid that was picked last, because I was rubbish at all the sports. And it was just miserable. It was just a miserable existence. I hated PE with a passion. And it was like, I get changed in these hideous, horrible, cold changing rooms with all these other lads. It was all bravado, and it was like, you're supposed to go and get showered completely naked with all these guys that, frankly, I hated school, and I really had quite a disdain for probably the majority of the people in my school, and that's not even just my year. I don't mind saying that. So there was absolutely no way I was going to get undressed and go and shower. So then I refused. So I'd be like, nah, not doing it. And then obviously get ridiculed and all that sort of stuff. And I think that stuff totally gets ingrained as a kid, and it just is like really deep set. And so then later on in life, I was the same. Like, my exercise had to be on my terms.
Yes.
Like, really on my terms.
Yeah.
And, you know, even friends and my wife would be like, oh, you know, I think you should do this. And I'd be like, do not tell me what I should do.
Yeah.
Because it just takes you back to like your PE teacher being like, right, now we're going to do 4 laps of the football field in horizontal rain. On you go, whilst he stands there in his office looking out the window, watching the kids running around the perimeter of the football field. Like, you know, and you're just like, that's on your terms, and I won't do that on other people's terms anymore. Yeah.
Reminds me of that brilliant scene in the film Kes. I don't know if you've seen it, with the football teacher. It's just this miserable Yorkshire howling pitch with a bully of a PE teacher running amok, and just absolutely miserable. Sorry, I interrupted somebody else. I got opposite experience.
I used to love all that. I used to, when I was at primary school with football before we started school, football break time, football lunchtime, football after school. That's what we did. Doesn't matter what weather it was, sunny, raining, snow, whatever it was. Gale force winds, like the goalpost is moving as well. We used to have like jackets or coats on the sides. They're moving, exactly, the ball used to go here and there like that. So I think when I was growing up, very sporty. Anything. Football, we made up games. I told them all types of games as well. But I noticed when I was gradually getting older and older, depending on my circle of friends, if they were sporty as well, I was sporty. If they weren't, it was non-existent. And I think then when I got older and older as well, I realised when I went to work in an office job, it became less and less. And then there was lack of time, staying fit. Like you said previously as well, I never really wanted that kind of six-pack, big muscles kind of build. I just wanted to be healthy. Just do a bit of sport here and there, to try to eat like
Kind of healthy.
kind of healthy, yeah. Try to do it.
Cook food,
Well,
you
kinda.
know, not necessarily
I'll
the
take
most
I'll
healthy,
take
but
away
it's
here
home
and there.
cooked, so that makes it alright.
I think it's like a psychological thing.
Yeah.
If I eat home food,
Yeah.
it's alright. It's good. for me,
Exactly, yeah.
You know. So occasionally I get a takeaway or not as well, but generally it was like that. But then I had a few accidents as well. I had a car accident. I broke my hand a few times as well. So after that, physical health, it kind of got less and less and less. So now it's got to a point of just walking about now, or maybe running. Occasionally might do a cross trainer or something. But I feel I like to do a bit more. But then I feel okay at the moment about it, you know.
I've got to say, you're all a bunch of saints, I think, and you're not vain or anything like that. So I'm going to be honest here. As a kid, I was pig ugly, and if you don't believe me, I can show you pictures. And that's not just me having a bad imagery, but and if you do want pictures, I can provide them. But objectively, I wasn't very good looking. And that was pretty much, that kind of followed through. But once I actually started losing some weight, I actually noticed people sort of looking at me every now and again. And that felt quite nice. Actually, the first time in my life. So, yeah, I'm vain. I didn't want a six-pack because I was never going to achieve that. And I was never going to put in the effort to get it. But to get some attention because you were better looking, it's quite nice. And I'm not going to deny that.
Do you think that's vain, or do you think that's just feeling more accepted in a circle of people around you? Because vain is really, there's nothing wrong with you, but you want to be above and beyond others. You've got that, I want to look better than X, Y and Z. I would my perception would be, if I was vain, I would want to look better than all you guys sitting here.
It's not possible.
And you would spend lots of time trying to make it happen,
To
wouldn't you?
make it happen, I'd spend a lot of money and do all sorts, to do that. But feeling just comfortable, just being accepted, I think perhaps maybe.
I think that's true actually. It also coincided with the time when I actually just gave up giving a damn about these things. It wasn't really a case of I would be acting like a peacock or something like that. It was just really a sort of combination of two things coming together, and it was a nice feeling. But now I put on tons of weight again. So.
Hardly. I was thinking back to what we were saying about messages growing up. This is where I feel quite lucky. My parents were very balanced about health in terms of that if you ate in moderation and you didn't drink too much, and they were very anti-smoking due to their beliefs, but everything else in moderation would see you, fairly right, and that you had to look after your body because from their viewpoint in terms of their faith, you were given this life as a gift and you should respect it and look after it. And I think those messages of moderation of what have stuck with me through my life. So I don't really watch what I eat to a certain point, but and I love to drink alcohol, but I don't like feeling out of control with it. So I'm quite lucky with that as well. So yeah, I think moderation for me has been a watchword throughout, and I am no saint at all when it comes to health, or a lack of vanity, to be honest. But it works for me because then you're not under a lot of pressure to really be too worried about body image, to be too worried about the amount of pounds you're carrying about. And I know that in the UK there is a problem with weight now. A lot of people are moving towards obesity, and that causes health problems over time. Usman, you were talking about the changes over your age, and I'm a bit the same. I had a motorbike crash a few years back, and it's the first time where I felt I haven't bounced back from something. And it's 2 or 3 years later, I still feel impacted on by that, and I'm sure that's to do with the differences in recovery that you have as you get older. But I have a story about this thing about being noticed as well. Because I went through life being feeling quite invisible, not good looking, big thick glasses, laughed at school for being gangly and a bit clumsy and not good at sport as well. But when I was about 29, I think it was, I got my hair bleached blonde. And
Is this in the mid-90s?
It was in the mid-90s, yeah. Everything bad happened in the mid-90s, and fashion-wise. But yeah, people suddenly, overnight, would come and speak to you in a group of people, and people would notice that you were there. And it was so remarkable a change overnight that it had quite a big impact, and it felt lovely. Yeah. Because going from invisibility to being noticed as a man, I think most men secretly have a bit of peacock in them. You have to, because sexual attraction is about that, and we are sexual beings. So being noticed by whoever you want to fancy you is brilliant, especially when it hasn't happened for most of your adult life to that point. So yeah, and it was really weird. And when I stopped bleaching my hair because it looked a bit ridiculous, I went back to being, the quiet guy in the corner again that nobody talked to. But yes, I did enjoy it. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think, like you say, it's normal to be wanting to be accepted and noticed, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Tim, when you began to get noticed after dyeing your hair blonde, did it shift anything within you? Did it increase your self-confidence?
It did.
And tell us a little bit about that.
So yes, I've always been shy in a social situation. Work gives me permission to talk about things, to play a role, to deliver information, and there's all those permissions around work that make interaction much more easy. But in a social setting, quite shy, don't like initiating conversations with people, and I always found that a struggle. So, the whole deal about guys chatting up people in pubs, I never really got that, because I used to think, well, why would they want me to go and speak to them? But having this experience where you didn't have to do that because people approached you or started conversations made life much more enjoyable. And confidence-wise, I mean, confidence in my world is where people say, right, I am a person who can do this thing, and you believe in yourself that you can do it. So it flipped that switch for me to be able to say, right, people do want to interact socially with me. I can do it. I don't do it remarkably well, and I'll do it on my terms. Like Luke was saying, you do sport on your terms. I do chat on my terms. So, but yeah, confidence-wise, it was a real boost in terms of I am an adult in a world that I don't really understand all the time, but I do have a place in it. So feeling included, I suppose, and heard is always a beautiful thing.
Did any of you also have a moment in your life where you just began to be noticed, much like Tim and Stephen mentioned, where you were seen, you were heard for the first time? What did that feel like?
When I got to the point where I didn't care about what people think, that's when I got noticed. So when I stopped worrying about how I looked or this and that, when I was more relaxed with myself, then I noticed people were looking or things happening. So I think when I felt comfortable with myself, and maybe that energy came out, and then people fed off it.
And how did that change you internally, in any way?
With me, it was like I just felt more at peace. When I felt more relaxed, more chilled, I really guys be myself. I don't have to fit into a particular thing or any particular way. Just be myself, and that's what it was.
I think I had a similar experience moving from the aforementioned school where I didn't like anyone, which has been torn down actually since, so I'm quite happy about that, rightly so. They decided, so in England you have sixth form as opposed to whatever the system is, it's slightly different in Scotland. So sixth form was kind of like college. I was going to stay on at sixth form at my school, and then they just suddenly announced we're not doing that. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, now I need to work out where the hell I'm going to go to do my A levels. And I ended up going to another school in Bristol. I can't even remember why I chose this place, but it was a sixth form college. So everyone that was there, the majority of the people who were there, had been in school together from the age of 11. And then I'd left my school where I didn't like anyone, and I was always kind of, to some extent, sort of straddled various groups of people, but predominantly probably sat mainly in the misfits group, I would have said. And never had much success with the opposite sex, all of that sort of stuff. Miserable existence, if I'm honest. And then went to this sixth form college, but I knew one guy who was like my best friend from primary school. I hadn't seen for years, and I sort of reconnected with him when I went to sixth form, and sort of became friends with his friends. He was in quite a popular little group, and I was suddenly the new kid. I was 17, just turning 18. I was like the new guy, and like all of a sudden, like was just getting this attention from the girls that all wanted to talk to me, and I was like, this is a bit weird. Not used to this at all. And I just remember feeling like it was totally bizarre. I was like way out of my comfort zone. There was people wanting to talk to me that I was like, I'm not used to this at all. I don't know what I'm doing. And sorry, I was 16, 17, that's right. And I don't know, I think something changed where I realised that I'd been around this group of people for the last 6 years or whatever it was, that had almost conditioned me to have so much self-doubt that that's just how I felt, that's just how I viewed myself. And then when I went somewhere else where nobody knew me, I suddenly realised that actually I could just be whoever I wanted to be. And that's kind of what I did. I was just like, well, I'll just be this person. Yeah, and it was hilarious because I spent 2 years there, and it came to the end of it, and I remember I was in a bar in Bristol, and I bumped into one of the girls from my old school, and she didn't recognise me at all. And then I was like, I won't mention her name. And she was like, my God, I didn't recognise you at all. She ended up asking me out. I turned her down. And it was so satisfying. So satisfying. That actually happened twice. Unbelievable. But I don't know, I think it was that conditioning of like being around the same people. I think just, I don't know, man. I felt like I that was just who I was, and I felt like I was that person, not because that's how I felt about myself, but because how other people had made me feel about myself. Do you know what I mean? And then not being around those toxic people suddenly just liberated me to be just actually who I actually was.
So was it a choice to be yourself, or was it a choice at that point to be someone else? And were there masks involved?
Well, that's funny because the short answer to that is I don't know, because I suppose the reason why I say that is, was I choosing to be someone else, or was the person that I was before different because of what they made me feel? Do you know what I mean? Like, was I not being myself because of them originally, and I wasn't allowed to be myself because I wasn't able to be myself, and then maybe I felt like I was being someone different, and I was, but actually I was becoming myself, I think. I don't know if I...
But I guess it's a case of, as you're growing up, this is things that you're experiencing, you're finding your way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only way you're going to find your way or understand the situation, understand who you are, is with your environment. And I think that environment really does mould you. And it's a case experiment, and you go in and you feel, I'm part of them, and something happens, you go, oh, but I don't get X, Y, and Z. And then you go into another place and you think, oh, maybe this is my place. And I think that happens continuously through your youth. I mean, certainly I'm sure like a lot of us at the age we are, we're more kind of grounded, we know where we are, and we're kind of more acceptant of who we are in ourselves. But I'm sure a lot of people, as they're going through stages of life, and some people realise later, quite late on in their kind of as they're grown up. And I think certainly for me, I was kind of conditioned by the people that I was around, unconsciously, but I perhaps didn't realise that. And only now that, as Usman was saying, you like me, you don't like me, I don't give a damn. But I'm not here to please you, you're not going to benefit me, and I'm not going to benefit you, unless there is a commonality in terms of your values are similar. You know, it's I don't need to give you monetary value to make you think, oh, this guy's good to know, he's beneficial to me. It's free to smile to people, it's free to be polite to people, it's free to, you know, if you're a wee bit down and I give you advice, or you came to me, or whatever, or if I've got problems, I've came to you, that's all free. That's great. And I think moreover, I like that kind of environment. That's the kind of place I would like to be. And people that don't fit that, for now it's a case of, I don't have time for this carry on anymore. I'm happy where I am. And if people understand that, they understand it. And the thing is not everyone's going to be on the same, you know, viewpoint. So you just have to accept that. Don't try to fit in. You know, it's just going to be a struggle all the time then, I guess.
And do you think you came upon that realization, or that approach in life, that mindset, because of the experiences that you went through, or was it just one particular experience that really triggered it for you?
You know, it's interesting because one of the key things I think it gets highlighted in my mind was when I met my wife. she was previously married, and her previous relationship, the things that she went through, she shared her personal situation with me, and I was horrified by it, and I thought, what? And then how, again, in our culture, there's a particular way that you have to be because the culture dictates that, you know, and although we're in the West, our parents have brought that culture with them, and they try to hold on to those values, and you're like, no, you can't. Yes, if you were where you were brought up, it fits that society, that country perfectly, but it's alien to here, and here to there's alien as well, so don't mix them up. You know, if you're here, understand, start kind of, you know, you have to accept where you are in the society that you're in. If you can't accept that, you're going to have problems. Yeah. And for us growing up, it was always that issue of dealing with our culture on one hand and what we've been told and what expected of us from our parents, to society and our friendships and our schooling and what their expectations were and how they perceived us as well. So we had to kind of try to balance both and keep both happy. It was quite difficult, but going back to my wife, the experiences that she had and how she was isolated by the community that from our background, our culture, and I was shocked the kind of things that she had to face up to, the criticism she faced up to, the abuse she faced up to, and the gossiping. It was just horrendous. And she was a single mum, so she had left her husband, her ex, and she was a single mum. And the way she was stigmatised and the way she was seen, she's a single mum and she's got a kid, and you know, it must have been her fault or whatever, all these kind of horrible stories about her. And what did she say? She turned around and she goes, you know what, forget yous, but I won't say like how she said it, but basically she goes, you know, if yous, I'll do this on my own, I've got my own daughter, and I don't need this. And she just focused at that time, she had this drive of just going by herself and looking after herself, and she wasn't caring about anyone else, and she shut herself off. And that made me think that, yeah, if you've got people like that are saying those things to you, the best thing is to just get rid of them. Don't let them make you feel as if you need to respond to them, or don't let them affect your emotions. She just completely shut off from them. And the other thing, for the flip side to that, is she did get a bit kind of, her personality was a bit harsh at times. So when I met her, I kind of did tell her kind of ease off a bit, you know, and like, because she's not, I know how they are. So she had this perception, I know how they are, what I went through, you know, my experiences, you know, because of these people, I'm just never going to accept what they say, and they can bugger off or whatever it is. But it took a wee bit of time for her then to calm down, and you know, we had a good relationship and she was back in a good space, and I think then she kind of mellowed out a bit more. But that really kind of brought it to me that, you know what, people are like that, they're nasty, I don't give a damn. And that was a changing point for me, I think.
I think that ability to not take other people's responsibility, because it's their responsibility, isn't it, and how they behave.
Yeah.
Whether they're pleasant or they're nasty, you can't really control it.
Yeah.
And I think largely moving from being a boy to being a man, that's a big chunk of that. Because if you're a boy, or if you have childlike responses to things where it's not fair or it's all your fault, which I've got little kids and they do this all the time, and we've got politicians who do that at the moment. So, you know, you can either grow up and mature and realise that you are responsible for your own actions and your own feelings and the behaviours that you deliver off the back of those, but equally so are other people. And it's really freeing, isn't it? It's like so much energy that you could waste on letting people control you because you think that's part of your stuff as well, when it isn't. It's really freeing, but it also makes life so much easier. And both of you have said about, you know, it being easier not to worry about what people say about you and think about you, and you just get on and do your own thing, which is lovely to hear. And it's so much more relaxed as well. So yeah, I mean, I think we should be teaching that stuff in school, personal responsibility. I know that school and education is moving towards these things more, but all of us of a certain age who grew up with education in the UK, which was largely not interested in that emotional intelligence stuff, we missed out, I think, and had catching up to do. So yeah,
we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence in another episode.
Look forward to it. I wondered, because of my circle of friends, I have one person that's interested in physical health from a medical background because they are a doctor. But I wondered if you have friends that are actually interested and talk about the process of looking after themselves. So, you know, actual physical ill health and well-being, and how you manage that, you know, whether it's by diet or exercise or medication or, you know, looking after yourselves, because it's a topic that, you know, most of my friends just don't ever get to.
I do have a friend in London who actually used to work for my company. He's the Swiss guy, the logic prevails sort of person. So very sort of science-led. And whilst we were working together, there was a number of occasions where we would have conversations about diet and what you need to sustain yourself and what the body needs and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I witnessed firsthand him going through what I woed describe as these fads, where he would do some research and discover that what he needs is this. I mean, you know, I used to watch him eat. He just used to eat the most hideous things for lunch, like a bowl of chicken soup with a handful of mixed nuts just on top, with some broken up bits of pepper, and just, you know, you just eat the most hideous things because it had the key things that he needed, and he didn't really care about how it tasted. He was just like, well, this is what I need to get through the day and make sure I've got the energy. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then he went on to that Huel supplement, right? And I always say, like, he basically broke himself by drinking this stuff, like, where he basically, like, broke his bladder and, like, had to go to the toilet every, like, half an hour. And I was like, you need to stop doing this stuff. And then there was the time he went vegan, and there was the time that he only ate meat, and, like, it was just like, I know, yeah. So I've watched people like that, and I'm like, I can't keep up with this. So yeah, that's about as close as it's come for me. I think I try and do a similar thing. Like, I try and cook. Yeah. So I cook a lot of the food in our house. But I like nice food. Yeah. So like when I cook everything from scratch. So, you know, seldom will you see us buy like a takeaway, like a microwave meal or anything like that. It just won't happen. I won't even buy a jar of Dolmio, do you know what I mean? Like, I just won't. Yeah. But will I cook with salted butter? Hell yeah. Yeah. Like, that stuff makes food taste good. Yeah. So then I'm like, you know, I have quite a lot of conversations with my wife about, are we looking after ourselves? Should we change this? Should we adjust that? To be honest, actually, the conversations that I have the most about sort of health actually seem to be around my parents, because my dad recently had like a hernia operation, and my mum's recently had an ankle replacement, which I didn't even know was a thing recently until she had that. I was like, wait, so they've replaced your whole ankle apparently? It's quite a new thing apparently. But they've had to do exercises. My dad was getting a bit older, and before his hernia thing, he wanted to go on a ski trip with us, and he wanted to learn how to like ski, and so he was doing all these exercises so that he could do skiing and stuff. I always admired him for that, because like, you know, he's not young, like he's in his 70s now. He was sort of late 60s at the time when we went skiing, and he did it, you know, and he used to talk about the exercises he was doing, and like, you know, he'd be like, oh, you know, he had this issue with his shoulder, so he had to like regularly, like, he'd be like lifting tins of beans at home and doing stupid exercises. So there's always my parents, them talking about it, and I sort of have definitely taken note that it's become more important to them now. And so that's sort of registered in my head that like, I don't want it to be too late. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd rather it's not going to get too late. That said, my father-in-law used to play football all the time and has had like 3 hip replacements. You know, and like some things are just beyond your control. You know, like some things are just gonna come and get you. Yeah. And you just, I suppose, try and make sure that when they do, you're in the best possible position to deal with that. Do you know what I mean?
I've got a friend of mine, he's quite similar to your friend. He's a Brazilian capoeira instructor. And he's like trains at 4 or 5 hours every single day. He's a vegan now as well. I don't know what stuff you're talking about. It's some, I don't know what it is. Is it a paste or something they eat? All he talks about fitness. He's always encouraging me. Even when you talk to him, while you talk to him, he'll just go to the side and start doing some push-ups against a wall or something like okay. And he's always, I mean, he's quite encouraging. He's quite good that way as well. But I say to myself, I could probably do it for like. Well, I did have one kind of session with him. He was doing this one set. I couldn't keep up. Within 15 minutes, I was done. And he goes, "That's a warm-up." I was like, "Okay." I actually thought it was a proper session, and he goes, "No, that's just a warm-up." But I was, no. So I seen him doing that, and I see how much a toll has on him as well. It's good. I mean, that's what he's into. It's fine, yeah. But I mean, he does get a lot of injuries here and there as well. But I'm like, no, it's too much. But like you said about family as well, mum and dad. I look at my mum and dad as well. They're both diabetic, so there are circumstances. I mean, I do kind of, when I go out, if I'm gonna, like when I drink coffee, I never take sugar. So I do them a little bit here and there, sort of thing. There's a lot of things I cut out here and there, but yeah, like just when you mentioned that, I kind of thought of that as well. I think it is back in my mind as well.
I think so, because I think like your parents are a lot of time, you whether you like it or not, you end up following their path, whether you like it or not. And I do, you know, and then like, oh. But as much as I see, you know, there are things that inspire me about my parents and that I admire about them and the things that they've done, there's also things that you learn, I think, from them and the mistakes that they made, and perhaps the times where you go, I wish I'd, you know, if they'd have known that this was going to be them now, maybe they'd have done things differently 10 or 15 years ago. But I'm in a position to learn that now.
That's my perception exactly. Seeing how my parents' generation are now, you see them, and they're all just sitting doing nothing, and they just feel incapacitated and feel, oh, we're old now, and that's it. We're meant to sit here and do nothing, and you're like, oh, no way. I hope I'm still, even if it's a struggle, but I'm still physically able to get up and do things. And like, I admire the fact that your dad, you know, at that age went to ski slopes. I think, wow, you know, just that concept of doing it. It might have been a mega struggle for him to do it, but the fact that he actually had consciously made that decision to do that is amazing. Totally is. That's like, wow, because you just don't expect it, you know, from when you get to that age to get into that seems quite extreme. You know, maybe going out bowling or something as a hobby or something, but to go down ski slopes is like, wow, that's amazing. But really, as you're saying, you start thinking now, you don't want to be that person, but you're inspired by these kind of stories, and you're thinking, I need to do it now, not later on. If I do it now, it might become a bit easier by the time I get there. But it's interesting, Usman was saying, because we know we're kind of in the same kind of group of friends, and this guy who does the capoeira, he's actually happy, and he doesn't do it to put it in your face like I'm fitter than you. He's actually very encouraging, and he'll bring you along. It's like he's in a good place physically, and he knows physically he's healthy, he's good, and he's very encouraging. He's like, just try a bit. You know, he knows not everyone's going to be able to do what he can do. You know, the squats and the chin-ups and the things. He won't even say that. He'll be very, very moderate, but encouraging to say, look, make a little bit of a change, you know, at an acceptable kind of level, and go towards, think about it, you know, and kind of push you that way. Yeah. But the other thing, I think, in terms of physical health, it also is to do with your mental health as well. For us, I think I realised that later on in life when I started taking my faith more seriously, because one of the things in our faith is about your spirituality, because you're exercising, physically, but you're exercising yourself spiritually as well, and that obviously affects your mental health as well. And it's things like there's a month that we fast, it's Ramadan, and you refrain from eating, but it's not just the physical eating, it's all refrain from maybe cheating in silly wee things or whatever, or a wee lie here and there, but just innocent lies and stuff. It's complete refraining from things. So spiritually you're cleansing yourself, you know, your whole being is getting changed. And not just that, the fact that you're fasting, there's obviously, I'm sure, medical research that says how beneficial that is physically as well, because you're just stuffing your face with so much food, and it's sometimes unnecessary. Sometimes your body needs a break and it needs to kind of respond in a different way. So I think that aspect of it, I think, encouraged me to look at it, the physical side and the spiritual side, connecting them both together and using that as a positive way to go forward with my health as well. And out with that month, to be honest, it's difficult, but I'm still conscious of that idea. I don't manage to achieve it all the time, but I'm conscious of it, which is a start for me anyway.
It's like back in your mind, you're like, I can do it for a month. I can continue doing it as well. For part of the year as well.
The fact that you have a desire to try, I think, you know, whether you achieve it or not, but you've got the idea, it makes it, I get it, you know, that kind of, it clicks for you. I think having at least that awareness, you can work on it then. But if you're not even there, then, you know, it's going to be an uphill struggle. You could just thingy. But I think it's, for me, it's two things. Another thing, you were talking about the yoga thing. A lot of the yoga thing, generally, my kind of perception of it was, it's physical and it's spiritual. It's to do with the mind. And my wife, she started getting into the kind of yoga. She does it every morning, just the kind of basics of it, And it's that thing, as you get older, you become more conscious. I need to do something here. And it's not just going to come to me, and you know, just not words ain't going to do it. I need to physically get out there and commit to it. And she swears by it. She's like, you know, she feels lighter, her mind feels a lot, at ease, and you know, so there's things out there. Just we need to know more about it and realise the benefits of it.
Yeah, for me, it was one of the signs, and I appreciate we'll talk in a later episode about mental health. But I realised I had a problem with my mental health when there was a stage when we were doing yoga that I almost threw something at the instructor, and I just thought, no, there's something not what the wiring has gone here. You need to walk away and you need to address that, because normally the effect was exactly as you're describing, but it was actually just working completely counterproductively, and that was a very good early warning sign for me, or probably a late warning sign.
I mean, you should consider it seriously before it's, not that it's too late, because as you described your father, just, you know, but not everyone's got that willpower. So I think that realisation that where do you want to be, maybe reflecting where are you going to be in your older age, just maybe question yourself about that, and where are you right now, maybe a kind of gauge, you know, in terms of what you think you should do, maybe.
It's important to look after yourself, not just for your own well-being, but also the fact that, you know, you may have dependents. So I think that's important, but I think that what seems to be quite obvious is that it needs to be on your own terms. You need to find something that you want to do. So it's almost pointless getting involved in something that you hate and you're just doing it for the sake of, oh, I'm just doing this to be fitter, whatever.
Or someone's convinced you that
exactly, somebody, you know, like you're talking about your pal.
Traditionally, men in the UK of all backgrounds have sometimes seen it as weakness to ask when something goes wrong, and I think what I would say to younger guys coming through is that you don't have to be the same, you don't have to keep those traditions going of it being weak to worry if something's not right and ask for help. So that starts with self-awareness of what your body feels like and what it does and how you generally are. And if something feels different or not right, you need to go and get it checked out quickly. That will make the difference. It's the difference between more women being diagnosed with having cancer in the UK, but more men dying of it. So those things can be changed by asking questions, finding out about health, being a bit more aware and interested alongside the interest in sport and activity.
Well, don't you think sometimes that question of asking about your health is that masculinity thing where, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, you know, it's like, you know, that father figure of, you know, grow up, nothing wrong with you, get back to work, you know, you have to be hard like a guy and don't be such a lady or whatever, you know, that kind of thing.
And it kills people.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, absolutely.
In terms of health, people get into bad habits, and sometimes you don't even recognise the bad habits, and you can make small changes that'll have a big impact. And so I was thinking in the conversation, I can't remember exactly what sparked it off. We all came up here by lift. If I worked here at Dam, I'd walk up the stairs each day.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm sure, well, I might not. I might just get used to taking the lift.
Yeah.
Not even think about it.
Yeah.
And in terms of bad food and all that kind of thing as well. So I think we can all make small changes that'll result in big changes.
Yeah.
And other people are not always going to notice what's going on inside your head unless they know you really well and they're incredibly empathic. How are they supposed to know if you aren't aware of those changes happening and you can't speak about them, which most men again tend to throw into the mix. You know, I don't want to speak about this stuff, it's private. What will the reaction be if I ask for help? Certainly in my experience, having disclosed, you know, a problem at work of being having an episode of depression, and within a week had been sacked from that piece of work. It's a real thing that people don't know how to deal with it.